Welcome to the TA training series Do-All Vertical Bandsaw video. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate the safe and proper use of the Do-All Vertical Bandsaw, a machine that is useful for producing a straight or a very large radius cut in a workpiece. First, you need to ensure that you are following all the relevant safety procedures for this lab, which includes safety glasses, long pants, closed-toed shoes. Also, you need to make sure that you are not wearing gloves whenever you're using the do-all, because this is powered equipment, and your glove could very easily become caught on the blade and pull your hand in. Next, we need to talk about allowable materials for the do-all. You can cut non-ferrous materials such as wood, plastic, or aluminum. You can also cut non-hardened ferrous materials. Remember that a ferrous material is anything containing iron. You can check for whether or not your material has been hardened by performing the file test. Now we need to talk about setting up the blade for proper cutting procedure. Remember that you always want to maximize the stiffness of your blade, so we want the shortest amount of blade exposed as possible. So we're going to adjust the blade guide to within 1/4 inch of the top of our workpiece. So you can adjust the blade guide by rotating the lower knob to unlock the guide so that it's free to move, then rotate the upper knob until your blade guide moves down, and then relock it in place. Second, we need to ensure that we're following the proper setup procedure for how we're holding our workpiece. Most importantly, you want to keep your hands out of the vertical plane of the blade so that you don't accidentally slide your fingers into the blade while you're cutting. If you're using a small workpiece, you can take the push block and push the workpiece into the blade, and this just keeps your hands farther away from the blade while you're cutting. Finally, if you're making a parallel cut in your workpiece, you can adjust the table fence up against the workpiece, tighten it down, and then use that to slide your workpiece in a straight line. When you're ready to begin cutting, you can turn the machine on by pressing the black power button. Now, since the do-all can be very loud when you're cutting, often it's helpful to take earmuffs to protect your hearing. When you're ready to begin cutting, push your workpiece gently into the blade. Remember that any vibration, chattering, loud noises is often an indication that you are feeding too hard and you need to slow down. So I'm going to make a straight cut by pushing gently into the plastic piece. I can also rotate the workpiece as I'm cutting to produce a large radius. We consider that to be anything larger than 4 inches. Once you've finished your cut, you can turn the machine off by pressing the red off button. As always, once you're done using the machine, you need to make sure that you clean up properly. So you can take the dustpan and the brush hanging under the table and wipe up any and all chips from the table and the floor, and then throw them in the trash. It's important to note that whenever you're cutting a thin material like sheet metal, if you try to use the do-all vertical bandsaw, only 1/2 of the blade engages the material at any time. This produces a very loud chattering noise. So to avoid this, you can make your simple cuts on the hand shear. The hand shear is very simple to operate. You put your part on the table, line up the line of the part with the blade, and then move the lever down. So that's an example of how to make a straight cut. Now you can see I have my workpiece marked with a small circle. So you can approximate a circular feature by making multiple cuts around the radius of the circle.
The first step is to shut off power to the machine, unplug it from the wall, and follow standard lockout-tagout procedures enforced in our laboratory. The second step is to open the upper and lower blade wheel doors. Next, remove the table support key. The fourth step is to release the blade tension by rotating the hand wheel clockwise 6 to 10 revolutions. The final step in the bandsaw blade removal sequence is to carefully remove the blade from the drive wheels and the blade guides found on each side of the bandsaw table. As shown in the video, it's important to wear gloves when removing the bandsaw blade to protect your hands from the sharp teeth. Be gentle when removing the blade from the bandsaw so as to not damage any of its fragile teeth. In addition, never bend the blade tightly, as doing so will ruin it for future use. And that concludes the bandsaw blade removal portion of this video. The bandsaw blade installation procedure is essentially the reverse sequence we just outlined during the removal phase of the video. The first step for blade installation is to carefully install the blade on the drive wheels and blade guides. A second set of hands greatly facilitates this step, so feel free to ask somebody to assist. However, please make sure that they too are wearing gloves. When performing this step, ensure the bandsaw blade teeth are facing outward away from the drive wheels and that the teeth are facing downward towards the bandsaw table. The final check is to ensure the bandsaw blade is installed properly between the two blade guides and that the back side of the blade is pushed firmly up against the flange of the drive wheels. The second step is to tension the blade using the hand wheel at the top of the bandsaw. Rotate this hand wheel in the counterclockwise direction until you feel suitable tension in the blade. Suitable tension means the blade will be able to deflect left or right approximately 1/4 of an inch under 20 pounds of force from your hand. At this point, it's good practice to cycle the power to the bandsaw on and off in short bursts to check for proper bandsaw blade tracking on the drive wheels. Once satisfied the blade is tracking straight on its guide wheels, you can close the upper and lower blade wheel doors. Step 4 is to reinstall the table support key. And the fifth and final step is to restore power to the machine if you have not already done so, and to perform a test cut to ensure the replacement blade is cutting properly.